Alright. Good morning, party people and other creatures of the internet. It is morning, as I said, good morning. And today I'm gonna take you along on a full studio day. Mostly that being because this will probably be the only day that I can spend the full day in the studio. That's sometimes just how it is when you have other life duties, other things to do with your time. But there are a couple of things that I want to get done today. Now, I am a notoriously bad checklist completer or a to-do list completer, but maybe today we will change that. There are kind of three big things I want to do. First thing, I want to make an illustration for a newspaper article. That's something I do sometimes just to keep up good practice, like an editorial illustration for a random article I find online. Second thing, I want to make some more tattoo flash. Because if you don't know, I'm also a tattoo artist and I make flash designs which people can choose from my illustrations, and I made some new sketches in my sketchbook which I think can work well as flash designs. And then third, I want to update my website a little bit more. I've been working on it quite a lot recently, but I kind of want to make it more clear, like the illustration side of my website and the tattooing side of my website, so people find it more easily. But the first thing on the agenda, the article, I'm going to start with that. And I really see it as practice, so I kind of want to challenge myself and only give myself about an hour to make it. I'm going to make it quite a small scale, so I don't have to spend too much time on like the actual making of it. I might give myself like 15 minutes first to sketch things out, to think through what I want to make, then an hour to make it, and we'll just see what comes out of it. It's not meant to be like a perfect illustration, but mostly, like I said, as practice. But before I get started on actually sketching, I quickly wanted to show you guys my new sketchbook, because it's not really a standard sketchbook. And I had to get a new one because, as I said in my last video, I went on vacation to Ireland last week, which was very nice. But when we were flying back, I forgot my sketchbook on the airplane, and I've like put in a request for lost and found, but yesterday I got a mail that I didn't find it. Well, it was just like when we landed, I can like vividly still see the sketchbook being there in the thing in front of you where they put it doesn't really matter. They haven't found it yet, apparently, so I just thought to go ahead and get a new sketchbook, which is also a good excuse to get a new sketchbook, obviously. But what I actually did, because also, as I said in my last video, this illustration stuff and tattooing is not my full-time job. I have another job beside that, and I am someone who kind of struggles with, I like structure, but I am bad when I have a lot of things that are like very open. That might sound very vague, but for example, illustrating is something quite open. It's something I do for myself. It all comes from me, basically. And then my other job, I also have a lot of freedom to do, to make my own hours, to choose when I work, what I work on. So what I did is I got a sketchbook that is also that has like these different parts with elastic bands. That is also a notebook, and that is also a weekly planner, which is kind of maybe weird, but because I think a lot of artists or like people in the creative business would really find this very strange, because you're like combining a lot of practical stuff with and also like your actual sketchbook. But I think I have to kind of come to terms with the fact that this is kind of how I also am just as a person. Like I am this combination in my head, it all just flows together. So I think this might be an upgrade for me just when it comes down to balancing my work, my different types of work as well. Yeah, just really quickly wanted to show that. All right, enough yapping about this notebook, as the kids would say, and let's get to some actual drawing. However, I do really quickly want to say something about the way here's my pencil, the way I approach these like editorial illustrations, because as I said, I've done a few in the past. I might put some up on the screen where I just read an article and then just make something without them really asking me to do so. It is a great way to do some just some trial and error, also to maybe fill in some gaps in your portfolio, or just to fill it further with more examples of what you can do. Because in a lot of cases you won't really get that many assignments in the beginning, and that's also the case for me. I'm still very much starting out with just getting my footing in the industry. So basically what I do is I just go online. I have like a online subscription to my favorite newspaper here. And I just go and look for an article that kind of piques my interest when it comes down to the title, but it doesn't really say too much, because what I often see is when an article is like very sensationalized, or when it's like a very big and very specific story, it gets kind of hard to make an article. It's strangely harder to make an article about it, because you're very limited to what you can actually draw. Because when it's such a specific context, you kind of have to draw that. And if you want to get away from that, or if you want to do something else, it gets kind of strange. So what I really like is when an article has like a kind of base interestingness, and then mostly is quite open, or just talks about a lot of different things. So you can kind of cherry pick what you find interesting, or what like suits your drawing style for what you want to draw, because obviously also this has to be fun in a way. You have the chance here to choose something that interests you yourself. You're not bound to a client choosing the article for you. So also, just if you ever want to do this yourself, just pick something that actually interests you. It's going to make it a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. Also, if you want to do some extra research. For this case, I'm not really going to have the time to do extra research, because as I said, like I'm going to give myself about 15 minutes to sketch it out a little bit, and then an hour to actually make the illustration itself. I will put the article I end up choosing on the screen right here, and also translate it to English, because the article is in Dutch. But earlier, when I was looking through the newspaper, I already saw a interesting article, or something that piqued my interest, and it had something in the title along the lines of the playbook of power, or something like that, which purely as a title already kind of interested me in, or like inspired me to make something about. Alright, and with that I am set to get started on the final illustration. As you saw, I did some sketching, just like about 10 minutes, and I'm quite happy with the idea I came up with. Sometimes it goes really fast, you immediately get a good idea for the thing you're working with. Sometimes it takes a long time and it's really a battle. But the article itself, as you probably could see, is along the lines of something like rewriting the laws of power, or rewriting the rules of power. I actually didn't really read the article, I just used the title, and I feel like in a lot of cases when you have enough information from the title itself, that's even better, because in a way the title of an article and the illustration or the photograph with the article have the same function. They basically just have to portray the idea of the article, but they're also made to kind of interest people, to spark their interest. And if I am portraying the same message in my illustration as the title is, that's more than enough. I'm also keeping it quite vague with the illustration. That's kind of the whole point when you're making something like this. Now, as I said, I want to make it a quite small illustration because I'm giving myself an hour. It's now 10:30 actually already, so till 11:30 I will give myself the time, but I did make it maybe a little bit too small. This is like just 15 by 15 centimeters. I've never made an illustration actually this small, I just realized, but it's a nice challenge as well to just also not get too much into the details, because I can't really in this case. But I will start with making the kind of the construction of the illustration, and then I will hopefully get it done within the hour, but we will see. There we are again. It is an hour and 10 minutes later. I know, I broke the rule. I went 10 minutes over over my time, my challenge time. But I came up with something that I'm kind of happy with. It's not, as I said, it's still it's an experiment, it's an exercise. It's not meant to be a perfect illustration or a super clean illustration. I did some things in a way that I would usually take more time to do. For example, the chain on the bear trap here on the bottom. I would have loved to make that more like very intricate and like have it more with like white gaps in between and stuff. Also the background is kind of whatever, and there's a lot of just still sketch lines showing through. But I do think I'm gonna post this online, and when I do that I mostly clean it up a little bit digitally, because it's just a lot easier than doing it with an eraser, especially on this size. But I'm very happy that I actually just finished it. I'm also quite happy with the concept that I came up with. I think it's kind of funny. It's I think personally a clever way to combine these two spiky elements, that being the crown, and then the bear trap, the idea of having power, but it also being a little bit fake, or maybe you're thinking you have power, but you're getting controlled in another way. I think it's a very contemporary idea, to say so. But yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. I am also happy that I actually did it quite well within the time. That makes it that I have a lot more time to spend on other things that were on my to-do list. But first I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. I'm gonna go outside, probably walk the dog, and then after that I'm gonna get back into the studio and start on the Flash that I was talking about. Welcome back, creature of the internet. It is probably a second later for you guys, but I went on a walk and I also took the time to lunch, because it's something I noticed when I'm having these like full studio days, that I sometimes don't really take the time, because I mean, when you're sitting down you don't really necessarily get hungry that fast, but it's not that good if you're not eating, because it kind of messes with your focus as well. That's something you often don't realize till it's too late. But what I did do, because then I lunched, I came back, I wanted to start recording, then my camera had to charge, yada yada yada. I just took the time to scan in a drawing, and I cleaned it up a little bit already so I can post it online if I want to. And I cleaned up my table a little bit because I want to get started on the Flash, as I said. Now, maybe some of you don't really know what I mean when I say Flash designs. The thing is, so I also do tattooing, and aside from custom tattoos on request, I mostly do Flash designs, and Flash designs are just a name they give to the idea that an artist makes a bunch of designs and a client can just pick one of the designs from the artist. That makes it kind of easy to find, I mean, not necessarily easy, but that makes it so that every artist can have a kind of distinctive style, and you can kind of cherry pick which artist you want just based on their style. My Flash designs I keep in these like little books. They're like actually like photo books, but they work perfectly for my Flash designs because they're made on these little pieces of tracing paper. I think it's called tracing paper. Basically it's like part translucent pieces of paper. I do it on these because it makes it easy to trace things out of my sketchbook, but also when the client comes here and they want to look at one of the designs, it's easy to like put on their skin, and it gives you a little bit better of a idea than when you have just like it printed on a opaque white piece of paper. Makes it a little bit easier to see. And then these little folders are perfect because they have these I think you can imagine I'm maybe explaining it a little bit too much, but you can just put them in here. And the designs I make, I have like 3 little books by now of these Flash designs, and I'm gonna make some more because there's a bunch of them that have already been chosen, which is very nice, but then also I just want to keep them fresh, also keep up to date with new designs so that people can get excited for them. What I mostly do is I go into my sketchbook. Sometimes I really specifically have an idea for something for Flash and I draw it that way, but most of the time my Flash mostly comes from ideas from my sketchbook when I'm just sketching, not really with a purpose. Something like this tree, for example, could be a great piece of Flash, but also this guy with the bird. These are all things I did earlier this week. Also something like this. I'm always making these like little, kind of, you can't really call it a scene, but these little dudes or these little objects that I'm drawing, and they work very well for Flash in my opinion, or at least for my style. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trace some of these. Now these are quite small because I'm using a smaller sketchbook now, so I'm probably gonna have to sketch it first a little bit bigger on a different piece of paper, then trace it, cut it out, and we're there. I'm thinking about like maybe at least getting 5 pieces of flash today, and I'm just happy with my productivity for today. Then I also can post them, and then we'll see what time brings, because it's if I get these 5 done and I made this illustration, I'm also already quite happy with the things I got done today. I'm gonna stop yapping because I am just procrastinating getting started, and then you will see when they're done or while I'm doing it. All right. All right, here I am once more. I just finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these little flash designs. I will probably be putting them up on the screen while I'm talking, so you have something to look at while I do the yapping. It always takes a lot longer than I expect to make these flash designs, or to like make them nice and clean, because the thing is, when you look at my drawings, at my style, also my illustrations, you could say that I have a pretty simple style. There's mostly not that much complexity going on. And the thing is, I've never seen the word simple when describing my work as a negative thing, or something that describes the worth of my drawings in any way, shape or form. Because for me, I mean, simplicity is also just a visual characteristic, I think, of my work. But that also means that it goes really paired with balance, and with, because when you have less lines, every line that is there matters more in a way, you could say. When you have a drawing that has 1,000 lines, 10 lines that are maybe not perfect won't show that much compared to when you have 100 lines and then have 10 lines in that drawing. You get what I mean. But that also means that when I'm making these designs, they have to be, I want to have them perfect, or like balanced in a way that works in my brain, that visually looks logical in a way. And a lot of that is also just purely for my part. I think a lot of people wouldn't see the difference between one design that I think is not balanced and then another one that's similar but is balanced to me. But okay, that's something that's more going on in my head. You don't have to worry too much about it. The thing is, I have these 8 designs now. I want to put them up on Instagram probably tonight. So I'm going to have to scan them and then clean them up a little bit more on Photoshop to make it like a nice white background. And then I want to post them. And I'm still kind of a little bit figuring out how I want to post my flash, because if you saw my 2 last videos, I don't know which one I talked about it, but I recently merged my tattoo account and my illustration account, because it wasn't really logical for me to have 2 accounts, because it's just a lot more work and you have to do more managing, while I had a bigger audience on my illustration accounts of people who are also interested in tattooing. So long story short, I merged them, but it also means that I kind of had to look for a way to separate it somewhat, to make it also visually appealing for people, that you have a combination of tattoos and illustrations and that's not too much one of the two, but also that you find the information easily on there. So I am looking at, I think I just want to put my flash in my Instagram stories and in my highlights, because I also always refer to my website on which all my flash is shown. I kind of more want to get people over there to look at all the flash. But then I also recently came across a very interesting way of showing flash that I kind of want to steal in a way. It was by an artist, by this artist. It's a screenshot. They go by Papaya Pokes on Instagram. I might put it on the screen if I remember. But basically I came across this and I saw just this little drawing and then a little bit of text underneath it with just like a kind of poetic little sentence. I was like, oh wow, that's very interesting, nice illustration, also a fun combination with text. And I only later realized that it was also, they were tattoo designs. So I think it's a very cool way of presenting your work and also making it a little bit more special, because when you post like, let's say 10 pieces of flash, a lot of them get overlooked, but I think in this way you can maybe post like 3 at a time and then make it a little bit more special and more like, yeah, how you say it, that people might take a moment to stand still to look at it a little bit more. And I also really like making those tiny little sentences, because in my illustration work, or especially the free work I make, free meaning like the things I make for myself that are not bound to a client, I start from text a lot of the time, because in my notes app and in my notebooks I have a lot of these little sentences that I write down from things I hear, from things I think about, just random thoughts, and they are very often like the start of a drawing, because they are often the title and then they spark something narrative in my head and something comes out of it. And I think it would be fun to combine a couple of those sentences with the flash. Still gonna see how it actually will work out. I might also again put some things on the screen if I decide to do so. So it is now actually already 4:30 in the afternoon. Time flies. I mean, it's even though I did that illustration in an hour earlier today, everything always takes a little bit longer when you're filming and also when you're just preparing stuff, and always cleaning, because a studio, you want to work in a clean space. But okay, I'm yapping a lot again. I love the word yap, by the way. You might have noticed. It's something I would not ever use, I think, in my daily life. But when I'm alone and talking to a camera, I love it. It captures so well when someone's just rambling. It's a better word for rambling, I think. Okay, and on that note, I'm gonna do these digitalization things. And I think this evening I might do a little bit more work, and I might talk a little bit more to you guys. We'll see. All right, I'm just gonna turn off the camera. Sometimes I really feel like I should just get like 4 or 5 desks and just put them in every corner of this room, so that every time I start filming it doesn't look like it was just like a second ago, the last clip. Because I hate to break it to you guys, this is where I mostly find myself while I'm doing anything in this house or in this studio. So you guys will have to deal with the fact that it's always looking kind of the same. But yeah, it is now the evening, so it is actually a little bit later. I just ate dinner. It is 7:30, and I find that most of the time when I am doing a full studio day, and I know I will have the entire day, that I am working a little bit later in the evening, because I usually start it later. I start later, like around 10 in the morning, something like that, sometimes 11. Just because when you have a lot of things that have to be done, like cleaning up the house or walking the dog or whatever, you do those first, just get settled, and then you can start your day with a free head, I guess. But that makes that sometimes in the evening I work a couple of more hours, which I don't really oppose to, because I actually like working in the evening better. I try to stay away from doing it too consciously, because then I would quickly like postpone my work till like after lunch. And when I'm working in the evening, it can quickly also become night, and then the next morning you're just tired because you've been working too late. Because when in the evening, I think it's also easier to get into a flow, for me at least. But yeah. So what I was working on, as I said, I made those, I digitalized those pieces of flash. I also tried some different stuff for the presentation. As I said, like a little bit inspired by the person I saw on Instagram. And I've been, maybe I'll scoot over, put it up here. So I was experimenting a little bit with the type of text I should put. I tried it first with like just a digital font, but then I felt that it was like too harsh and too sterile, too clean. So what I did then is I used a handwritten, so I just wrote the sentences down here, digitalized those, and combined them digitally with the flash. And then also I scanned a piece of drawing paper which has a little bit of texture, and I used the multiply layer to like combine it all, and then it feels more analog, I guess. Yeah, let me know what you think is the best one. I personally like the handwritten one more, and I also really like it in the blue color, because it really gives it like the feeling that someone just kind of quickly maybe wrote it down. It gives it a little bit more of a raw feeling, I think, in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think, if or maybe give a tip if you think it could look better in a different way. I'm gonna, because I only did it for one now, I'm gonna do it for 3 different posts, or 3 different pieces of flash. Post them on my Instagram tonight in a normal post, and then I'm gonna put all the other flash, because I had 9 different new flash designs. I'm gonna put those on my website and just refer to that so people can find it there. And then I think the studio day is over. Yeah, but so you'll see me in a few seconds. I'm just gonna get those posts up and running. Okie-do, there we go. Different angle, different location. It's just like half a meter from my desk here, but it's different. Just for a quick word at the end of this video, because we have reached the end. It was a little bit of a different one today, a one-day studio vlog, which I kind of like, that the fact that I can just like, when I have this entire day, can just take you guys along and see what I end up doing that day. Aside from that, I said I want to talk about one more quick thing, and that's the fact that I've talked about it in, I think, one of my last videos as well. The fact that I'm looking for a different space to as a studio, because as you might know, this space is in my house where I live, which has been very nice for the last year and a half, or like almost 2 years now. But I do realize, or I do feel like it's better to, especially with my tattooing, to get to another space, because I don't really want to have people coming over here to get tattooed. So I've been looking around. It's been really hard to find, because I really kind of want to find a space that's suitable for both a drawing studio or illustration studio and a tattoo studio in a way. But then again, I don't really want to be hosting an entire tattoo studio, because that's not what I really do. My tattooing is more occasional. But yeah, the search has been quite hard. I hope I have like one more lead at this point, which is promising, but we'll have to see, because I've been visiting and contacting so many different options, but it's really hard to find some space that is suitable for me, because I'm in like this kind of gray zone in between things, and also my tattooing practice is just not developed enough to really be going to big tattoo shops, or to the shops that I like, at least. There's a lot of shops in Ghent, the nearby town here, but the problem is just that the nice tattoo shops that I really like obviously are they're just way higher level than what I can do at this point, or what I can offer. I don't really have to offer anything. I don't really have anything to offer for these tattoo shops, for them to employ me, or for them to even consider having me rent the space there. But yeah, so and also aside from that, I really would like to have my own space where I can also just draw, or I can be like at any moment that I'm free and I want to work on my tattooing or my drawing practice. That's just my own space. That's something I'm really looking for. But that I also don't have a problem with getting clients or people who are interested in my stuff to come over there. But yeah, as I said, it's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about this shorter form of content, I guess. It's probably a little bit of a shorter video than usual. Aside from that, if you are interested in anything I've shown or talked about today, you can also follow me on Instagram, which is also just Thomas Hetwood, or you can even visit my website, which is thomashetwood.com. It's all in the description if you are interested. If you're still here, maybe consider subscribing and liking the video. Then that way you can support me for free, and you can also find my new videos when they come out, hopefully weekly from now, but we'll see, not promising anything. But thank you guys, and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.